Yeah,
Okay, I was saying that I had some issue with the coding for ADO.NET and C SQL connectivities. So can I discuss it after the class or what? I mean,
so it's like, what's your doubt? So that tell me, according to that, we will plan.
it's showing me binding errors on my page when I try to run the code in Visual Studio. The connectivity is fine, but it's showing me binding errors and it's not letting me show any output.
Okay.
If you want, I can show you my page.
Yeah. Okay, we will see that first. Okay. And let me make you
Okay.
presenter so that you can. So who is this? Rutuja or Shamir?
Yeah, this is Rutuja. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I made you presenter so you can share your screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
No, not yet.
Okay, 1 minute. Okay. Now,
Not yet. Yeah, it's okay.
actually, it's
Yeah, it's fine now. I can see.
okay. See, this is the form which I've created, and I have added code to add. I have not made any more coding because I was trying to test the ad first, and when
Okay.
I do that, it's not helping me. It's not letting me run.
So what is that
So
control?
I
The button? Okay. Okay, fine.
add button and the connectivity I've done with the help of Server Explorer. I just did a right click from data connections and then I added my database, sorry, table student from SQL.
Okay, wait. Where is your connection? SQL connection object?
It's connection
So
object.
call dot open something is there. You declared it globally? Yeah, you declared it globally. Okay, fine. So,
Actually, yeah,
okay, so run and see what's the issue.
I should run, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I have actually done it statically, like these values will be printed, one and
Okay, okay.
these two values.
Yeah, got it.
Okay. So when I click add, it gives me this error, exception.
The application. Okay, you do one thing. Quit it. Input string was not in a correct format. Remember. Okay, quit that. Close that issue.
Sorry?
Close that issue.
Mm-hmm.
This one also put a breakpoint there on your code
Put a breakpoint.
form1.cs. You put a breakpoint there. Okay. So the problem is
Here?
very first thing. So int id equal to convert dot to int you are using, right?
Yes.
The very first line inside your method. So that one is a blank value. Okay, that string with blank value. So it is not able to convert that value. That's the issue.
Okay.
So you are running, right?
Okay.
Just
And
open that running form. Just run the form again. Run your code. So you can click on start. You can see, right? Start. Okay. Wait. Give one in ID field.
I didn't understand. Okay.
Okay, that's fine. Now click on add. Still okay. Details. So the input string was not in a correct format. Okay. So you put a breakpoint in your code on that method. Okay, there you can put a breakpoint. So not that one. Come back to your code line. No, no, just click on the line. Okay, just now press F9, function key F9. Yeah, it added a breakpoint. Now run your application. You can click on start. Okay. Okay, okay, no problem, no problem.
Clicking. Oh, okay.
Okay, it's running now. Now give some values into the fields.
But I've shown it statically. It will not take these values.
That's okay, no
Can you
problem.
please add?
That's okay, no problem. Add it. Click on add. Okay. Now see the just focus on dot text. What it is? Text box one dot text. So you just focus on text text. So text box one is something else. Okay. So that's
Okay.
why you have to keep some fancy names. Stop your application running. It's running. Stop it. Okay, so go to your form design and change the names of the text boxes. Okay, the first one you change the name to name of that one to txt id.
1 minute. Mm,
Just you can drag that properties window to that's yeah that one txt id. Okay, same way you change that first name to txt that name came. Okay, txt name. Okay, the third one manager txt manager. Yeah, that's fine. So now save this.
yeah. Um,
So
oh,
see,
it automatically
so
creates
the
it.
other way you are calling.
Oh,
That's a problem. Okay, just change the names.
yeah.
Now run the application. So that is why it's a good practice to name your controls appropriately. Oh, this time also it will give error because that ID field you have to enter some value. You cannot directly convert a string value. It should be some integer value.
Okay. Okay. So, okay, fine. Yeah. And should I do it dynamically? This, or it's okay because
Sorry?
I should do it dynamically because I've forced these values into the database.
Yeah, like this also you can do, but the preferred way is through stored procedures only.
So this is fine.
Yeah, this way also you can do, no problem.
This is correct, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I will run right now.
Okay, now do F10, F10, F10. Function key, F10.
F.
Do it.
Okay, I have written it again.
Okay, no problem, do it. F10. Okay, okay, okay. That got inserted.
Okay, okay. So now it went here.
Okay, you can check that in your database.
Yeah. And my database, okay, 1 minute. Should I stop this?
Yeah, yeah, you can stop.
And one more question.
Okay.
This is the way I've done it with the help of Data Server Explorer. I went to Server Explorer, I did right click,
Your voice
and
is
then
very low, Rutuja.
okay. Actually, I did like this. Like I went to Server Explorer, then I went to Data Connections, and then create new SQL database. So that way is fine, right? And I have created it with the help of a table.
With the help of?
A table. So this table student, it's a table.
Yeah,
Okay. So it is fine.
yeah. So this is okay. You can check it here.
Okay, I see student.
Tables. So just right click on it. Right click on okay new query. New query.
Sorry?
On top you can see new query, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm doing it right now. Yeah, correct. So it went here.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So give proper names to your controls so that handling of those controls will be easy. Okay? Otherwise I will face problems like this.
Okay. And like when I do this and then I do right click and add and I go to this and then I do this, it does not add.
What you are trying to add?
Okay, no. Actually, there was a problem before that it not let me add. This is
What you are trying to add?
a database or a table.
So why do you need to add here?
Not for this application, but for any other application, if I
So
do
you can directly give your connection string and you can work. So adding those things is a different one. Okay.
okay, okay, fine. I will, yeah, I'm fine right now. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll continue our class. Okay.
Should I stop there?
Yeah, it will automatically stop. I'm stopping it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, guys. So far we have discussed many things. Okay. So today we are going to discuss about state management and ASP.NET page lifecycle. These two are very very important for your interview purpose as well as for your .NET practice also. Okay, so ASP.NET Page Lifecycle, this is very very important concept when you compared with anything. This is very very important. So the very first question, if you go to interviews, people will ask what is ASP.NET Page Lifecycle. Okay, so far we see the WinForms and then ASP.NET, how to work, how to insert data, how to drag and drop controls and other things. Many things we have seen. Okay, so far we are able to do some coding and we are able to insert some data and get some data, show it, edit, update, delete. So through console applications, WinForms and web applications, right? So that's all practical part. So this is now theory part, and this is very very important when you are working with ASP.NET. Okay, as we discussed first, ASP.NET is a server-side scripting language and it is very very important to remember that. So this ASP.NET cannot be understood by your browser. So your browser can understand only the HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Whatever written in that, your browser can process and can execute it, and it will show the UI whatever you designed. Okay, so in that process, what will happen? So you design some application, okay, and then you designed some application, you deployed your application, and you deployed your application, published your application into IIS server. IIS means Internet Information Server. Okay, so right after doing that, you got some request for that. Okay, so google.com or outlook.com I have published to a IAS server. Right after that, I got very very first request to my website. What will happen that time? Okay, or else, so your website is there, you are browsing google.com or microsoft.com or amazon.com, whatever website, okay, whatever .NET website you are browsing. Okay, so what happens at that moment? That's the page life cycle. So you have many pages in your ASP.NET. Some are like, okay, so a default page, uh, many pages are there. Okay, so what happens? So you requested a website. Okay, the time what happens is the very first time it goes the request to the website. I'm getting some noise. Okay, so the very first moment when you draw, when you request, when you type some URL and enter on the browser, what happens is the browser sends a request to the application server. The application server receives the request and it sends, it processes that request internally. So there the life cycle of a page starts. Here page means a web form. The web form page life cycle starts from there. The very first moment when you type the URL and you press enter, the request will be sent to your IIS server. Right after that, your IIS server sends that request into number of steps, in that process it goes through number of steps. So the very first thing is IIS loads is app DLL, okay, internet server application or not. So it will check that. So you are getting HTTP request, so your is AP IS AP DLL will be invoked. That DLL will process this request and sends to the very next DLL, that is ASP.NET is application. Okay, so is it ASP.NET internet service application or not? Okay, so that one will be, the DLL will check that. If that is true, then it generates a HTTP runtime class and assign it to worker process. A worker process is something that sits in your IIS server which executes all the user requests. Okay. So HTTP runtime class object will be created and it takes the request, so and it moves the request further to your HTTP application object and picks application domain. So application domain means this is nothing but each application will run in a separate domain. This domain gets all the required DLLs and all the configuration settings, whatever it requires, everything will be kept in your domain. That domain will process everything. Okay, that domain, app domain or application domain takes that request and it process and it sends to the next level. That is HTTP application object create the instance of page. Page means a web page. A web page means your web form. Okay, so that page object will be invoked and the process request method for that page will be called. From there, ASP.NET page lifecycle starts. Okay, so your IAS server process the request in these many steps at the initial stage. Okay, after that your request is sent, will be that page will be loaded in these many steps to your browser. Okay, the very first step is your page will be initialized. Okay, your page will be initialized. So whenever people will ask what is ASP.NET page lifecycle, you have to tell the page initialization. Okay, load view state. Okay, and then pre-render, save view state, render, unload. These are number of events executes before sending the response to the browser. Okay, the HTML response. So all the code you have written in ASP.NET and C Sharp, what ASP.NET, that converts to HTML, and that HTML will be sent as response to the browser request. That HTML response will be received by browser and that will be processed by your browser and it displays the UI, the front end. Okay, these are the steps happen. Okay, so we will see each step what happens in this. Okay, so there is two cycles. One is ASP.NET application lifecycle and page lifecycle. These two are very important for interview purpose. Okay, if you go to 10 interviews, 8 to 9 interviews, you will get this question. Okay, what is ASP.NET page lifecycle? So that much important this page life cycle. Okay, any doubts you can ask me in middle. Okay, so I will explain each and everything individual. So all these DLLs, these square boxes are not that much important. Only these oval shape phases are very important. Okay, so ASP.NET application life cycle. Okay, so you first time deployed your application to IAS server, what happens? So user makes a request for accessing the application resources like a page. Browser sends this request to the web server. So a unified pipeline receives the first request and the following events will take place. An object of the class application manager is created. An object of the class hosting environment is created to provide information regarding the resource. Top level items in the application are completed. Response objects are created. The application objects such as HTTP context, HTTP request, and HTTP response are created and initialized. An instance of the HTTP application object is created and assigned to the request. So this request is processed by HTTP application class. Different events are raised by this class for processing the request. So this application lifecycle, if you see the square parts, okay, the square boxes all represents your application life cycle. So very minimum people will ask what is your ASP.NET application life cycle. So the very first time when you deploy your application, okay, that time your request will be received and how it will be processed by your IAS server, that is called ASP.NET application life cycle. Okay, at the end of application life cycle, your page life cycle starts. Okay, is it confusing or clear? So it's clear. So IAS server first starts application life cycle, then at the end of the application life cycle, your page life cycle starts. That's the main difference between these two. So application lifecycle means the very first time your request received by your IAS server, and it checks whether it is a valid request or not. Then it checks again it is a ASP.NET request or not, and then if it is a ASP.NET request, it raises it creates HTTP runtime, okay, runtime for your application to execute, and then a application object will be created to process your request in a app domain. App domain is just like some infrastructure or the basics required for your application to run. So all the DLLs and configurations, whatever required, your app domain will provide there. Okay, and then HTTP application object creates an instance of page. So there is one more interview question like this. So for all the ASP.NET pages, what is the base class? That's page. So if some question if they ask like what is the base class for all your web forms, you can say blindly that is page class. Okay, and then the ASP.NET page lifecycle starts there. Okay, so that is application lifecycle. Now we will see the page lifecycle. Okay, so page lifecycle that starts with initialization, instantiation of the controls on the page, restoration and maintenance of the state, execution of the event handler code, page rendering. Okay, so what is page lifecycle means how your web form loads to your browser. Once the application lifecycle ends, then how your page will be rendered. Rendered means nothing but loading with the appropriate content to your browser. Okay, that is called rendering. So this rendering, how it happens, you can see the events here. Page request, the very first time when the page request, it decides whether to parse and compile the page, or there would be a cached version of the page. Accordingly the response is sent. So the very first time when the request received by IAS server, it checks is there any cached version. So you can see sometimes the images on a website, they won't be changed. Okay, you have to close your browser. So even though you uploaded your photo or some other image, it may not affect immediately. It will take some time, some 2-3 minutes, or you have to refresh your page many times. Then you can see the page, the latest image. Why means cache. Cache means nothing but your browser or the server keeps the old data in order to send the response very fastly. Okay, it keeps the old data. Okay, the updated data, it will take some time. That's a cache we call. Okay, that's a page request. Starting of page life cycle. So at this point of time, two objects are created. One is request and another is response. Request means from which browser and from which page the request is raised. Okay, that is request, and response is so what response you are going to send. These two objects will be created. If the request is an old request or post back, the is post back property of the page is set to true. The UI culture of the UI culture property of the page is also set. So this is old request and post back. So whenever you click a button on your page, ASP.NET page, it post backs to the same page. So if you see HTML, there is a submit button. That submit button, whenever you click, it will redirect your page to the new page where you can define the new page URL in your form method, form tag attributes, get or post. Okay, that action. So that action, whichever URL you give, there the page will be submitted. But in by default, all the ASP.NET pages are self-submitted. So self-submitted means whatever data you enter and click on a submit button, the data will be submitted to the same page. That's what ASP.NET. Whereas other pages, other technologies, they they submit to the same page or other pages, but by default ASP.NET it is self-submitted. So when the page is self-submitted, so is postback property is set to true. Okay, means it is posting the data back to the same page. That's why is postback will be set to true. Okay, so next is page initialization. So at this stage, the controls on the page are assigned unique ID by setting the unique ID property, and the themes are applied for a new request. Postback data is loaded and the control properties are restored to the view state values. So view state anyway we will discuss right after this page life cycle. Okay, so before submitting the page, what is the page status? Okay, what is the page state means, so what are the values of a control? So you might have entered first name, last name, your email id, some other values, and when you click a submit button, it submits the data to the same page and it reloads the same page again. But before submitting the data, what was your page state? The same state will be brought back. Okay, this is not possible in any other technologies. Because of this, ASP.NET got very popular. Okay, so state of all the controls will be taken care, and even the postback data, the other view state value, from view state all the values and state of the page will be uh, got back. Okay, so that is page initialization stage, and then page load. At this stage, control properties are set using view state and control state values. So all the values of the controls and their properties will be set in page load. Validation, so if there is any validation controls, if you define, all the validations will be performed in this stage. Okay, page validation is another part, that is a stage. Okay, there all the validations will be performed. Postback event handling, so if you are clicking on a button and the page is self-submitting, so and you can see on ASP.NET, so whenever you drag and drop some button and double click on it, it generates a method inside your C# class. So how it is, again calling the same method means, okay, when you submit it is calling same method. So how it is happening means, postback. In the postback, from which button the event got fired, and that event will be void up. So in ASP.NET, that very first tag in web forms, I showed you auto event wrap up. That set to true. Because of that property, from which control the event got raised, that respective method will be executed. Okay, that is postback event handling and page rendering. After doing all these things, your page will be rendered with the respective values and whatever is there before the stage or very first time. All the HTML code will be generated and sent to the browser. Your page will be rendered to the browser. Okay, any doubts or confusing? So you guys are clear? This is very, very important for interview. Okay, I hope you guys understood it. So next is state management. Okay, state management is another concept. Okay, so if you want to see that postback event and other events, what you can do is you just run any page we developed. Okay, so and then view code. This is page load, and if you see, not here, the additional controls. So here I have everything. Okay, this postback property is there. So ID, is postback equal to is postback. That is, so if you see all the pages they derived from system.web.ui.page. For all the web forms, the base class is this page. Okay, so this one I closed. So every time the page load events fires, if you are running your page for first time, or if you are firing, if you are clicking on some button, the post back time also an event will be executed. Okay, every time your page load event will be executed, so we can differentiate between this is a normal page load or a post back by using this is post back. So this is post back is false. Now I will enter some values. Okay. So now you can see that this post back is true. Okay. The very first time it will be false. When I click on a button, the is post back property will be set to true because it is self-submitted form. Okay. Based on this, you can do many operations. Okay. And the event will be handled here. Just okay. So the event file here. So this is ASP.NET page life cycle. Okay. Now we have state management. So as I told, so this form got submitted. Okay. And these values still they are there. How is it possible? Means because of state management techniques in ASP.NET. Okay. So our state management actually, so all the browsers generally they are stateless. Stateless means whenever we visit a website, our browser communicates with the respective server, okay, depending on our requested functionality or the request. The browser communicates with the respective server using HTTP or HTTPS. But after response, what next or what will happen when we visit the website again after closing our browser. In this case, the protocols doesn't remember what website or URL we visited or otherwise can say it doesn't hold the state of previous. So you closed your browser, you logged into Gmail and you closed your browser. The very next time when you open your browser and type Gmail, it will not remember like earlier you logged in. So without signing off, you closed your browser. Okay, and you opened your browser. So that time your browser will not understand, like will not keep the state. Means you were checking your mails and suddenly browser got closed, and when you open, the browser won't open directly your mailbox. Okay, so that's the state actually. Even you are filling some data and you suddenly you refresh your page and you click on some button. So your form submitted and the data lost. So okay, what's the problem with state? So that's the stateless thing. So that state. In this article, we can discuss about state management, how the data can be maintained by using ASP.NET. Okay. So we have state management by using objects, allocated memory, session IDs, URL info, and so on. Okay, so there are different techniques in ASP.NET. Those we will see one by one now. So the techniques. So you can see the diagram here. So state management techniques. We have different things in ASP.NET. One is client side, other is server side. Client side is we have view state, control state, hidden fields, cookies, query states. Server side, we have application state, session state, and session state further divided into proc state server and SQL server. Okay, so you can see the techniques. Client side, we have view state, hidden field, cookies, control state, query states. Server side, application state and session state. Okay, so what is view state? In general, we can say it is used for storing user data in ASP.NET. So sometimes in application. So this is only page level and it is only maintained in that page itself. You cannot maintain the data once you come back or if you navigate from that current page to other page, the view state data will be lost respective to the page. Okay, that's what view state. You can see the diagram and you can understand it. So client sends some information to send some request to server. Process data, page recreated, send response to client. User gets the results on its browser. So meanwhile, you entered some values, just like my screen here. So I entered some values. I clicked on this button. Okay. So when I clicked on this, the data actually it has to go, but it is still there because of the view state. So view state actually keeps the data of your controls, whatever you entered across the page postback. So what it will do is the data, whatever you enter here, when you click on this button, your view state uh, catches or captures all the values respective to these controls and keeps inside it. Okay, it keeps all the values inside it in its 64 encoded format and it submits the data along with the view state data. Okay, and when the data is submitted, the data will be processed and again the same data, view state data will be sent back from the server to the page. So from the page, all the values will be like we saw the events, page lifecycle events. So post back events are there before that validation, before that control state. So in that event, all the data with respect to the controls will be processed and the values will be kept in the controls. The properties and values will be initialized or assigned. Okay, so by using view state, that is possible. Okay, a simple sample code for this is on page 4 on a page code event. So view state you can directly access using view state keyword and it is just like a key value page. Okay, key will be any string and your value can be any object in that object will be saved to your view state and that you can access throughout your page events. Okay, you can see a simple sample here, a count variable. Okay, how many times your page is posting back? That's what we are checking here. So the very first time the count is null means we are initializing the value with 1 and how many times you click on a submit button, it counts. So once you click the is postback property will be initialized to that initialized to true and it gets inside and it processes the view state and it is adding 1 so that the value will be increased over the time. If you go to the second page, you cannot get the same value. Okay, because view state is only page level. That is the scope of view state is respective to that page only. So any doubts or you guys understand that? The next is hidden field. So we have another control in ASP.NET that is hidden field, and the hidden field is just like hidden field in HTML. So this saves the information and it keeps the information, but it won't present to the end user. So on a page, you can keep hidden fields. So I have kept somewhere. So this is the syntax for hidden field. Okay, it gives some value. Okay, if you want, you can keep some value. So here you can those hidden fields are very, very important. So the data will be there on the page, but end user cannot see it directly. When they run this application and they want to see, they have to see it by using the source code only. Without that, they cannot see. Okay. So this is Statemanagement. So you can see there is no hidden field value directly, but when you go to page source, you can see hidden field somewhere here. So input type hidden. So you can see the hidden field is here. Okay. So this CK handle and everything will be appended. Appended because to uniquely identify a control. Okay. So this is hidden field and the value if whatever you give it will be here. The view state also you can see view state also a hidden field in a page and the data maintained okay. View state generator ID. So you can see view state here ID value and on the page whatever data is there that is encoded like this and counting the hidden field value. This will be secondary to even used it also as used it also a hidden field. You cannot see the data directly, and you cannot convert this data to your actual data. Okay, this will be submitted. So the hidden fields are mainly used to do face-to-face communication or in the same page. If you want to maintain some data without knowing to user, okay, you are doing some conversions. Okay, so the base conversion from dollars to rupees. So the conversion you may not know, but by default it will be maintained internally on that page and it will be calculated by using JavaScript and will be presented to you. So the use of hidden fields is hiding the data from user, okay, and maintaining the data on the same page without user knowledge. Okay, and this can be accessed from the database or you can process the hidden fields from JavaScript. Okay, if you see this diagram, page one has a hidden field page. So you have different clients, and each page has its own hidden field. When the page is submitted, that server will process those hidden field values. Okay, so the syntax for hidden field is just like your text box, but it will have value. Instead of text, it will have value. Okay, you can get the values, you can process the values like this. Next, you have query strings. Query strings are nothing but any website you can see. So, what website you can say? So, Outlook.com. If I open this, you can see this URL. Okay, and I keep it in Notepad. So the part in your URL, you may find some question mark. After this question mark, whatever is there, we call it as a query string for that URL. So it will have a simple word equal to and then the value and then ampersand, okay, and then value. So ampersand is a delimiter which separate the query string. A query string is a key value pair separated by ampersand. Okay, so and question mark defines the starting of your query string. So the query string is a key value pair. So you can direct, no need to put like some string means double quotes, integer means normal, something like that. You need not to maintain. Everything will be taken care automatically. This is a key value pair, and this is very very useful to communicate in your communicate between pages. So from one page to another page, if you want to send the data, you can send by using query strings. Okay. So by this URL, people will send some key value pairs to the next page, and that next page will read all the query string values and process accordingly. The how you can access the query strings is, as I told, it is a key value pair. So a request object. So request object means from which page or which browser and everything, from which browser, which page the request has been sent, that will be maintained in your request object. And your request object has a property called query string. Query string is a key value pair. So in this query string, everything is strings. Okay, the values also strings, the key also strings. So you can get the value by providing the key. So request dot query string of your key. So by example, if you put request dot WA, request dot query string of WA, if you put, it will return this value. Okay, so that's what query string. These are very very useful to send data from one page to another page. And the problem here is these are less secure. Less secure means the data can be viewed by the public. What data you are sending from one page to another page, that can be viewed by any user. So uh, as I am able to get this data, the same way anybody can get the data. Okay, so some important user ID or password you should not send by using this operation. Okay, so the next part in ASP.NET is cookies. This means these are the small text file that is stored on user's hard drive using client's browser. So from client browser, you can create a cookie and it will store some end user's machine online. So the lifespan of the cookie you can define, okay, and then whatever data you keep in your cookies, that data will be available for the duration. And when you so next time, whenever the data will be there on cookies, and whenever you want to get that cookie data, you can directly get back once again. So I can give you a simple example. So remember me on computer. So whenever you are logging in, many websites they offer like remember me. So how they are implementing the remember me is by using cookies. So cookies, uh, what they store is, they store some important information, that user related information like user id or password in some encrypted format or some other formats, so that when from that mission again you browse, it will show automatically, it will log in automatically, or it will show the option like your user ID will be automatically populated, you have to enter your password. Okay, so all these are possible by cookies. So they will create a cookie, something like this, and they will define the expiry date for that cookie, and then so the cookie name they are giving session, and they are giving that some values here. Okay, cookie dot value expires and cookies dot add, so that when you create this, this will be automatically installed on or created or user drive. So sometimes some web application prompt like please enable cookies for your browser. So they want to store some information on your hard disk. That's why they put some message. Okay, so this is your client browser here and state in the URL. So whatever state you want to keep, like you are already logged in and you are on your mailbox, that time that state will be saved onto the cookie, and next time when you open your browser, automatically the mailbox will be opened. Okay, So that's what cookies. And there are two types of cookies in ASP.NET. One is persistent cookie. Cookies having an expiry date is called a persistent cookie. This type of cookie reaches their end as their expiration dates come to an end. In this cookie, we set an expiry date. So you can see the expiry date. Non-persistent types of cookies aren't stored in the client's hard drive permanently. It maintains user data, user information as long as the user access or uses the services. It's simply the opposite procedure of the persistent cookie. So this non-persistent cookies, how long you open your browser, it stores that information with your browser. Okay, once you close the browser, the cookie information also will lost. But whereas persistent cookies, they live on your machine for a long time, that you define an expiry date for that cookie. Till then, the data will be there. Okay, so how you can access cookie data from your application is, so convert.request.cookies. Cookies also again a key value pair. Okay, so that key value pairs we can access just like this. So cookies number dot value. Okay, like this we can access cookies. Okay, and again we have control state is based on the custom control option for expected results from control state. We need to enable the property of view state. So So this control state is nothing but that is maintained by your view state. So there is no need to take care of this control state so that you can enable or disable the view state for a particular control. There is an attribute like enable view state or not. So you can see here for any control, any ASP.NET control, you can see enable view state. If it is false means across the page post tags the value won't be kept. If it is true means by default everything will be true. If you manually enter this one false, the across the page post tags the value won't be maintained. If it is true, the value will be maintained in your view state so that across the page post tags the values will be retained. Okay, that is control state. And then we have server side state management. Here application state is one object. So this is global storage mechanism from all the pages on a web. You can access this one from all the pages of a web application. And this is again application state is again a key value pair like thing. You can store the values in that and you can access the values same way like your request.query string like that. The syntax is very simple. Okay, yesterday we saw that global.asx file, how to get the values. So by using application state, you can get that. So yeah, when, when your application starts, application state, okay. So by using application state, you can store all the values. Okay. So you have the HTTP application state. Something like this we can maintain. Okay. This state can be accessed across your pages and you can show the count. Okay. Same way this one if I put it here, this one globally. So there are global variables. Global variables means nothing but static variables in your global application. So global.asx file. Okay. By using that, you can maintain perhaps something like this. You can keep. Okay, this will be accessed from different browsers. Okay, that is how you can keep your application state and raise when the applications so across the events of your global.asx file. So you can use this application state object. Okay, and then session state. By using session state, this is session means mainly from the place where you are start when you start when you type a URL, you open a browser, you type some URL and the request sent to the IAS server. The very first time when the IAS server receives the request, your session starts from there. That session ends when you close your browser. Okay, till then the session will be maintained as it is. Okay, so during this session you have session object. Okay, the session object is maintained. So that object will have a session ID. Okay, if you see this, yesterday we saw session. Okay, this is the object. This is again HTTP. It starts from HTTP state session. Session state dot HTTP application dot session. Okay, this will have the session ID. The session ID will be created by your IAS server automatically. It is a unique ID. Okay, with this, it identifies from which browser the request raised and the session uh, validity is 30 minutes. By default, it is 30 minutes. Means for 30 minutes, your session will be live. Okay, you opened your browser and you went somewhere. Okay, you logged into some application, you went somewhere, and after 2 hours, you came back and you refreshed your page. Your page again asks for your login. Why that is means by default your application session set to some predefined value. Okay, the validity of the session will be for some limited time. So once the limited time is over, the application will again ask you for login. Mainly you can see on blank applications. If you kept your application for some 5-10 minutes idle, it will ask you to log in again. It will automatically log out. Okay, the session state will be maintained mainly for some hackers problem. So if you keep your application on, hackers can hack your information. That's why they define the session state very less. Okay, validity of the session. So session can be identified by a session ID. Okay, and then during this session, whatever you want to store, whatever information you want to store, you can store by using the session object. This is also a key value pair. Okay, string is the key and value can be anything. Okay, you can keep anything. New object. Okay, and while you are reading back, you have to convert your values to you have to convert your values to the actual object type. That is session, and session management is maintained in three different types, that is in-proc, state server and SQL server. Okay, in-proc and out-proc, two different types are there. In-proc means whereas the session information, the session data, whenever you request IIS server, it creates a new session and the session data will be kept inside that same server. Okay, out means out of that server where your application is running, not on the machine, some other machine you are maintaining the session information. So the states in that outprop you have state server and SQL server. So state server means it saves the session information in a different server, that is Windows server. Okay, that is some other server. But SQL server means your data will be saved on a SQL server. There are predefined data formats already given for you to maintain this SQL server. Okay, that is membership database and session provider database is already there for you. available on internet. So by using those databases, you can enable SQL Server. So this outproc is mainly used in load balancing. Load balancing means I can give you one example. So to your daily you may be accessing Facebook. So Facebook is a single application and it cannot run on a single machine. If you bring a very supercomputer which is more advanced and top in the list in the world, if you deploy your Facebook application, Facebook like application on that supercomputer, it cannot serve these many millions of users at a time. How is it possible? Means they will deploy all the Facebook application instances on number of servers. So all the servers together they serve the users, end users. So if you have three applications, so three servers, and these three servers running your Facebook like application, and the very first time you requested, so you open facebook.com, your request may go to any of these three servers. So once you log in, your home page comes. The home page again, you don't know the requests means every page it may be redirecting. The very first time Facebook login screen comes. The next time it gives Facebook home page. So each page is again a request to the server. So that server will send the response back. Okay, so your request will be sent to the same server, you cannot guarantee. So there is 99.99%, there is no chance that your request will be sent to the same server again. Once you log in, your request may be served by server 3. The very first time while you open facebook.com, your request may reach served by server 1. Your home page served by server 2. And again your friends list, you clicked on your friends list, it opened your friends. That may be from server 3. Like that. So the servers are different, but you have already logged in. You need not to log into the each and every server. The session information will be shared among these by using some database or some other Windows or Linux server they are using. Okay, that's what ASP.NET session management, and this state management is very important for interviews. They will ask. Okay, in-proc means the session information saves on the same server. Out-proc means the session information maintained by a, a Windows machine or a SQL server. Okay, the out-proc is mainly used for load balancing scenarios, and in-proc is a single machine in a scenario. Okay, and advantages are better scalability. So client-side state management means better scalability. Scalability means you can many. So if you want to maintain data each user wise, that time this client side is very useful. Supports multiple web servers. So as I told you now, you can maintain multiple web servers. So this client side state management, that's that anyways that stores the data on client side itself, not on the server side. So how many servers you will have, it supports all the things. So server side means better security. So the data always resides on the server and nobody can access it. Client side, the data stores on the client machine, so there is a chance of hack. Okay, reduced bandwidth. So if you have a low bandwidth, the information stored on the server you cannot access as frequently as you want. Okay, so these are advantages and disadvantages of your client side state management and server side state management. So these two topics are very important throughout your career. You will be asked during interviews these questions, and you will be working on these two topics throughout your .NET career. Okay. So any doubts? Okay, guys. So the thing is, tomorrow our course will be end, and day after tomorrow we will have a class, an extra class for whatever doubts you have, and some I will ask you each one of you. like some questions. So you have to answer that. That is just like some Viva. And the project related any issues you can ask me on day after tomorrow. Tomorrow we will be discussing about a few more concepts which are left with ASP.NET. Okay. So your project related WinForms or web forms, I have given same project, okay, to develop on WinForms and web forms. So any doubts you can ask me day after tomorrow's class, or tomorrow also if we can complete our class early, we can discuss. Okay, okay guys, thank you. See you tomorrow. Bye.